This messy area, got to put that out there. This is a GE air conditioning unit, and it's great. And I'm going to plug in to my generator, so I've got to throw this out.
Hey folks, Chris here. I'm going to do a quick vlog style entry for traveling. I've gone from Boise all the way over to Bend, Oregon. I actually stopped in a little town called Burns for a couple of days and just sort of hung out there. I was in that part of Oregon like a little over a year ago, and so I knew where to park and I knew where to stay, and I just decided to kind of chill there. It's a nice little town. It was a little bit quieter this year considering everything going on. Boy, it's quiet. Last year when I was here, there was a lot more going on in the morning. It's kind of sad. Here's the old Cafe Palace. Look at those 1970s shingles. Looks like it had some life back in its time. Lounge. This is the main thoroughfare, so you see a lot of RVs and trailers coming through here. I love some of these old original buildings like that. Give a sense of the history of a little town. This is one of the little towns that got started in the late 1800s. So you see remnants like this. I love this. Somebody has a sign here. You are not alone. Then over here, I refuse to live in fear. This is for a little bookshop here called Serendipity Books and Gifts. I'd love to go in there, but it's closed. There's another sign that says You Matter. I love little stuff like that. Don't give up. It says Burns, Oregon, established 1889. And there is a little mini gallery down here. Burns actually has a gallery. Saged Design Works. Burns Trading Post. It's closed. It's Sunday. So these little towns will be closed often on Sundays. And then every small town has their tavern. But it had this great little coffee shop on the main street that I went and worked at, which was really nice. And a little gym there, like a little community gym that I went to. And just, I liked having those little things. I've always been a person that's gone to coffee shops and worked, and it was nice to just be able to go there and, and do that. The drive from Boise to Burns is pretty boring. In fact, all the way over to Bend, it's pretty boring. There's just not a whole lot. It's just long and flat and not too much visually interesting to see. But by the time you start getting over to Bend, it does start to get a little bit forested. And a lot of people think that Oregon and Washington are these big forested states all the way across, and they're not. The bulk of them are actually dry and desert. And that's reflected in this drive. But as soon as you start getting over to Bend, because Bend is basically nestled right up against the Cascade Range, it does start to get forested. So Bend is really the first town that you get to that you start thinking of as being kind of in the Pacific Northwest, because it does start having trees. It's not like wet greenery type of trees, but it still is forested relative to what you just had driven through across the state. So I'm going to be here for a couple of days. But I wanted to talk about the generator that I have and my air conditioning unit. So the RV has its native air conditioning unit. And, it's one of those things where when it's hot, you definitely want your climate to be sort of cooler inside. And I didn't have a way of running the air conditioning unit in the RV, even though it works really well. I have to be plugged into a 30 amp service in order for that to work. And I would have had to buy a generator, a big generator that that would run it, something like a 3,500 watt, and it would have been like 100 pounds and $800, and it would have been a pain to tote around. So what I did was I did some research and found an air conditioning unit, room air conditioning unit, one of those floor standing ones where there's a hose that goes out the window to vent the heat. And the other alternative would have been to get a little cheaper, like, air conditioning unit that fits in the window. But there was just no way that was going to work. I would have had to take it out, put it in, an engineer getting it in there, and it would have been a pain. And so that just was not an option for me. So the room standing unit has been great. I got one that was designed for about 250 square feet, which is as small as they make them. And so far, it has worked great. And these floor standing units take more energy, turns out, than the wall mount ones. And so this thing runs at about 850 watts, almost 900 watts when it's just running. The compressor kicks on and it takes a surge of electricity. And when I was in Seattle last summer, my inverter generator got stolen. I had this fantastic Ryobi 2300 watt inverter generator. I really liked it. It was a good generator, but I left it out one day inadvertently and came back and somebody had stolen it. So that was a $650 loss, right? So I had to search to find a new generator, and I would love to have replaced it because it had some features that I really liked. It had Bluetooth control, and it had a little LED on it that told you what your power draw was and how much time left you had with the current gas tank, and that was just super handy. But I didn't want to spend $650, so I did some research and, looking through YouTube University and found another generator that was in the same power rating class that was only $400, 2,300 starting, 1,800 running. I did some reviews on YouTube, watched some reviews, and people generally liked it. It seemed to work really well for the people who had had it. So that's the one that I bought. And I'll show you how it starts. It starts really easily. It's a very easy to start generator. In fact, when I first got it, that was how I could tell it that it was going to seem to be a good generator, was literally the first pull on it. And I didn't even pull super hard. It just started right up easily, and it just purred right along. This is very easy to start. You just put it into choke. I've made sure its economy mode is off. Here we go. And then I have found that I need to let it run for 3 or 4 minutes before I try and start the air conditioning unit, because when that compressor kicks in, it pulls a lot of energy, and I found it'll stall it if it's not fully warmed up. So this AC unit is rated for a room of about 250 square feet, and in the size of my RV, it works really well. 26-foot RV, just to keep my general sort of work area, living area here cool. And it requires a lot less energy than the native unit. I would have had to get 2 of those generators, or a big generator, to run that thing, and it just wouldn't have been feasible. I'm going to go ahead and start it up. You have to press the power button. Put the mode over to cool. And then it'll kick on. Initially just the fan comes on. And then the compressor kicks on and it starts going into cool mode. I typically will turn the fan on to high. And the way that you can tell that it's actually running and not just the fan, but it's cooling, I mean, you can feel the cool, but you can come out and feel the air being vented out, and it's usually warm air. So
yeah, so it's a good little generator so far.
And so I've had it for 6 weeks or so now, and it's been running really great. And it runs this air conditioning unit. And it has enough extra power that I can also run my big computer at the same time if I needed to. So that was a consideration, was knowing that a room standing air conditioning unit like this would have a surge to start the compressor that couldn't exceed the typical 1800 watts that a home outlet on a particular circuit could handle. I knew that that generator would be able to run it, and it did. So the one thing about that is that, like a lot of generators in its class, it has sort of an economy mode that makes it run quieter, and I was concerned that it would be loud. But like a lot of inverter generators in this class, it actually isn't too loud. And it doesn't seem to me that it's any louder than that Ryobi unit that I had, which was a quiet generator. So I have to run it in order to run the air conditioning unit. And it actually says this in the manual, that for bigger power draw things, especially things that have a surge, like a compressor for an air conditioning unit, you can't have it in that economy mode. That will cause the generator to die. And I tried it and it did. The generator didn't like that. But it turns out that it's not actually too loud, to be honest, when the economy mode is turned off. And so that's basically what I've been running to run the air conditioning unit. And it'll run for, I don't know, 5 or 6 hours running this air conditioning unit and on a gallon of gas. So I've been happy with it. This has been a good investment for me to have in terms of keeping the RV cool. And it does. It keeps it very cool in this main sort of living area. I've been very happy with that. So anyway, this is just kind of, if you're considering doing this and you're considering controlling your climate somehow in terms of an air conditioning unit, this is one option you can pursue, a room standing air conditioning unit. If you have the space, and I've got a 26-foot RV that I have the space for it. If you're a van dweller, depending on the size of your van, like a larger Sprinter van, you can still probably find space for this, because the only other alternative is some sort of a roof mount unit, and I don't know how expensive those are, or a window unit, and those are cumbersome and they're a pain to engineer to put in. So anyway, I'm in Bend, and I'm going to do a little bit of exploring over the next day or so before I head closer to the coast. So thanks for watching.